Hi guys, this is my first video in English to the channel. I hope you like that. I made this video with Luna and Letícia of the podcast Pistolando, and I hope you enjoy that. Bye. Doutora Drag! Hi guys, I'm here with Luna and Letícia, and I'm trying to speak English today. It's my first time in the channel. I don't know, and I don't care about that. But let me introduce my friend Letícia of the podcast Miss Pistolando.
Hi.
And tell people, Letícia, what's your Twitter to people follow you too?
Our Twitter handle is Pistolando Pod, at Pistolando Pod, and we don't podcast in English. We have a couple of episodes in English, but not all of them. So follow us in Portuguese.
Yeah. And now we are with Luna. Luna, I'm happy to talk to you today. I've been wanting to bring you to talk here on the channel for some time. I have to say that many people who follow me also follow you and love you. And for those
our listeners, really, they follow your channel. Our group of supporters, we've made stickers of you because everybody likes it.
Oh, I didn't know
So there's a sticker pack.
if you can send kisses for a Pistolando party.
Yeah, thank you.
For those who don't know you, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do on YouTube and what is your Twitter account so they can follow you too.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Luna. I'm a normal Vietnamese girl, I guess, and I've been living in Vietnam. And I actually, my Twitter account is Luna_VN. And my name is born to be commie because actually I was born to be commie. Because my dad is freaking, I can call it tanky. And then he raised me to be communist since like I was a kid. And then something like that. And then my YouTube channel is Luna ơi, and I do like traveling videos. I do cooking videos, and I also talk a lot about politics too, about what's going on in Vietnam, and especially in the COVID-19 pandemic and what's actually going on here and how the media keep lying about Vietnam for like decades.
Luna, I first want to ask you about the OI in your channel. What it means of OI? Because in Portuguese to us, it's like hi.
Yes, this is a very, very funny question because in Vietnamese, the word ơi means hey. So actually, Luna means like hey Luna in Vietnamese. So kind of the same.
It's the same word.
Yeah, it's the same.
Great.
The pronunciation is different, but it's the same word. Love it.
Yeah.
I love it too. Another thing we want to tell here today, it's about LGBT issues, misogyny, and sexism. And why do I want to talk about this? Because Brazil has one of the world's highest rates of LGBT murders, and we also have many cases of feminicide or femicide, and means actually the assassination of women by their partners motivated by patriarchy issues. But the neoliberal ideology also always uses Eastern countries and socialist countries as examples of intense repression, a pinch of prejudice, a handful of Orientalism, a drizzle of anti-communism. So I would like to bring this subject to the public of my channel.
Okay, so I think there are two things that I need to talk to you first. The first thing is like theoretically, Vietnam still like doesn't legalize gay marriage or the LGBTQ plus marriage or like legalize like to change the gender on the ID cards yet. That's the fact, and I'm really, really sad, and I want it to be changed. Okay, but like actually in the society of Vietnam is very, very welcoming, and like the violence against like LGBTQ plus people is not nearly a problem in Vietnam at all. The worst thing you might cope with in Vietnam is like if you walk down on the street, you know, you go like you go to Vietnam and you walk on the street, people will stare at you, and mostly just because you're foreigners, not because you're like LGBTQ plus or trans like people. And like and another thing is like if you're an English teacher or any kind of teachers, and then you teach children, maybe sometimes you have to deal with shitty parents and they like just like that, but it's very very rare. And and then my advice to like avoid being teachers for children in Vietnam if you don't want to have that kind of experience. But that's the worst you can you have to deal with in Vietnam. Mostly in Vietnam, we have a lot of celebrities who are like openly LGBTQ plus people, and then like yeah, it's very welcoming. Even like just a few years ago, when my older brother still like hasn't got married yet, and then I asked my mom like, "Mom, what if my brother is like gay or something like that? Like, what do you think about that?" And my mom, like a 60-year-old Vietnamese woman, farmer, she was quiet for about 3 seconds, and she told me like, "It's okay, I will accept that." So it's actually like she's a stand-up Vietnamese farmer, 60-year-old. And okay.
So do you think if you had a national referendum to approve of a gay marriage, do you think people would approve it?
Absolutely, people will approve it. The thing is, like the Vietnamese government, I don't know, a bunch of guys who run the government, they are freaking old.
Everywhere, right?
Very, bureaucracy and still kind of conservative. So like mostly I actually talked to a trans woman in Vietnam and asked her about that. Like, what does she think about that? And she was like, of course she wants to legalize gay marriage. But she believes that the reason why it's not legalized yet, just because like the government is lazy and they don't want to deal with all the paperwork.
Oh, okay.
That's why they give the old system, not like they really oppose it or something like that. They just like
okay. If that's the biggest problem you have, you are fine.
Because in Brazil we have records of a death by homophobia every 23 hours. An LGBT dies to be a LGBT person in Brazil, just because of that, every 23 hours. But the neoliberal ideology says, you guys, socialists, murder LGBT because LGBT cannot exist in your country, for example.
It's totally lie. There's nothing like that happening in Vietnam. This is a true story from my friend that I just mentioned. She's a trans woman in Hanoi, Vietnam. And Hanoi is like the capital of Vietnam. You can call it like a communist capital of Vietnam. You know? It should be very conservative, right? But actually, she is even also an ethnic minority. And then she said like when she was about 17 and she decided to take the surgery. But like for a while, of course, her parents like did not really accept that at first, and then she still take the surgery in Thailand, and then like when she came back, and then like her family like supported her since then, and then she was like now before the surgery she faced the problems of men in Vietnam being like having to be strong and have a good career to have like families in the future. But after she took the surgery and now she became a woman, her mom like forced her to like, you have to be beautiful, you have to wear dresses, you have to make up and then find a husband and for yourself and things like that. So like she faced like both genders problems. It's kind of funny, but it's kind of like to show like
it's sad also
about sexism too. About sexism too. Yeah, like the patriarchy in Vietnam is still pretty strong. Oh, I want to mention a little bit about the history of that in Vietnam. So originally about 4,000 years ago, Vietnamese society is matriarchy. It means like woman was the head of the family. Okay, and then about 2,000 years earlier, and when like Chinese kings came and conquered Vietnam for 1,000 years, they brought like Confucianism and then patriarchism to Vietnam. And that's why like the Vietnamese society is kind of the mixture of both patriarchy and patriarchy. So like in the outside, we are very patriarchy, where like the man should be the head of the family. They have to like bread earner, something that like man should be strong and find a good career, make good money to feed your family, and the woman should be like, you should find an easy job. Like we have a lot of free time to take care of your kids, and you have to have a husband and have kids, something like that. It's kind of very tired. But like actually in the inside of the house, the women are actually the leader. So like the man will give all the money to the woman. Like my mom, my dad doesn't know anything about financial situation in my family.
It's like my grandmother and my mother was.
Yeah, right. Like, and then before the family meeting, my mom will have a small meeting with my dad to tell him what to say tomorrow in the big family meeting. Like that. Yeah, so it's kind of.
Another thing I think we want to know, I think Letícia too, it's about violence against women, because in Brazil we have that and it's very common.
There's nothing like that. I don't even remember the last time there was any violence against LGBTQ+. I can't even recall. Seriously, I don't know. Because it's nothing like that in Vietnam at all. Like of course, like there would be some reports about like being like robbed in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere. That's gonna happen to anybody, not just
anywhere.
Yeah, to anybody.
But how about women specifically? Do women feel safe in general when they walk in the streets? I mean, going out at night by themselves, do they feel safe when using public transport, something like that? Because, for example, in Brazil, we have so much sexual harassment in public transport that they have a special wagon at the subway. You know, there's the whole train. There's a wagon that's only for women.
For women.
Because that's where they feel safer. Yeah. So instead of addressing the problem, which is men it's a pink wagon, which is already ridiculous. Yes. I don't want anything pink being necessarily associated to being female, but so sometimes they have to beat up men who insist on getting on the pink wagon, and they have to call security, and it's just ridiculous. So they never address the real problem, which is a very sexist society. Instead, they create this ridiculous wagon that nobody respects anyway, and that doesn't solve the problem. Not all women can fit in one wagon. So all the other women who are in the rest of the train, they get harassed anyway. So it's a stupid way of dealing with the problem. And no woman feels safe anywhere in Brazil. If you have to go walk, I go out at night in the evening to walk my dog, and I only go as far as the corner, which there's a drugstore, there's a supermarket, so I know there's going to be some people there because my street is pretty dark, and I'm afraid. I don't want to go out in the dark, and I never go after the drugstore and the supermarket are closed, because there will be nobody in the street to help me if something happens. And so women don't feel safe anywhere. Is that a feeling that people experience in Vietnam?
No, I am a Vietnamese woman in Vietnam for 30 years, and I actually, maybe it's sometimes if I am like out there alone 2 a.m, I would be scared. And I'm scared of the ghosts and like dead people too, so that's why. Yeah, but like mostly I will like the latest I came back home was like usually 12 p.m. and I feel totally safe. Like not like that at all, seriously. And I like I for 2 years in university I went to school by buses and then never got any harassed for 2 years. It was running by bus to university, so I don't know. Maybe they are like sexual harassment like in Vietnam, of course, because Vietnam is not perfect, but it's not that big of a deal. It's like maybe 10-15% of the cases, maybe only that. I feel safe myself. I feel safe in Vietnam, totally, absolutely.
I took some number, and in Brazil in 2020, I say 2020. 2020. Okay. A woman is killed every 9 hours during the pandemic in Brazil. But here in the news, you live in a black place, not us.
There's no need. Everyone here believes in my integrity 100%, right, guys? Give it to me.
Because the pandemic, social isolation, staying at home, it made these domestic violence problems worse because women are stuck at home with their abusive husbands. And you probably heard the news in France also. I mean, Brazil is not the only country where this happened. Right at the beginning, the cases of domestic violence had a huge surge, especially in places like France, which record these cases very accurately. And it also happened in Brazil. A lot of women are suffering because they're stuck at home with their abusive husbands. And maybe the husbands have lost their jobs and the kids are at home making everybody nervous. And there's not enough money and everybody's super stressed out. And then this thing explodes. And then we have a president who thinks this is really funny and it's not a problem at all. And so he just legitimizes this kind of behavior. And it's scary because it's not getting any better. It's super scary. So I am envious, really. I really am.
I saw for a part of my life domestic violence, my father beating up my mother. And it's a very common scene to view when you are children here and you have to see this kind of things.
Yeah, I'm glad to know things are different in Vietnam.
I'm glad too.
My whole life, I just saw my mom and my dad got about 2 kind of serious fight with each other. That's my whole life until now. 2 times. My mom and my dad were really mad at each other. And yeah, that's it. There are abusive husbands in Vietnam. There are shitty husbands in Vietnam. But this is actually a good news to me because the divorce rate in Vietnam is becoming higher. And the conservatives say that it's the bad side because when people don't want to have a family, and we're like, no, for fuck's sake, no. Finally, women or men, they are brave enough to get out of marriage, and that's a good thing. And then I know actually a lot of single moms in Vietnam in my my old co-workers, and they all fuck it, divorce, and then they have a fucking happy life after that.
Is it a taboo? Divorce? Is divorce a taboo in Vietnam?
It used to be. It used to be about 5 or 10 years ago. It used to be very hard for single mom to raise kids alone. Before I met EJ, my mom told me this. My mom, again, a 60-year-old Vietnamese farmer who doesn't speak English, she said hey, if you get married and your husband treat you bad, just divorce him. And if you even have a kid, just bring the kid here. And I will have you raise the kid. Do not live with him. So that's it. My mom even encouraged
nice
me
mom.
to
Nice. I like her.
Nice mom.
So I think we made the main questions about LGBT and feminicide that it's very, very, and I like to hear the news from you. But in addition to these questions, I asked my audience things they wanted to know from you, ranging from simple everyday matters to more complex questions. But I think to begin, I'd like to know how you pronounce Ho's name in Vietnamese, because we don't know here in Brazil. Ho Chi Minh. What is, how?
His name is Ho Chi Minh.
Okay, so it's Chi, not she.
Chi.
Ho Chi.
Down, up, and flat, Ho Chi Minh.
Okay.
It's not very hard that I thought.
That's it. You can say Ho Chi Minh or something like that. It's fine.
Okay. We were talking in the backstage before, and Letícia and I were thinking about mental health in Vietnam, because we don't know how does Vietnam deal with mental health issues and their relation with the state and the social security, for example.
For sure, yeah. The first semester issues in Vietnam, we have a lot of victims of Agent Orange who have now have
still.
That's a big yes. It's gonna last for 4, 5, 6 generations after the war. So it's a huge problem. And actually, the society in Vietnam, we have a really very low suicide rate. So the mental issues that are related to stress or social issues, it's not really that much. There are people like that here, but it's not really a big issue yet. And then About the mental issues, the healthcare about mental issues, people is like our insurance will cover the fee for mental issues treatment, and this is how healthcare works in Vietnam. Poor people will have free healthcare 100%. The people with near poverty line will have about like 70 to 80% off with their healthcare insurance. And then middle or like class worker like me, middle working class like me, I also have health insurance with like we'll have a discount about like 50 to 80% off of all the hospital fee. And then for the rich people, who the fuck cares? So we don't have we don't really have statistics for rich people, healthcare for rich people, so like middle working class stop. Okay. And then like this is a kind of I just found out yesterday actually. Like the healthcare insurance in Vietnam will not cover the testing fee. So if like you want to make sure that you have a mental issue or not, and you need to go to the doctor and check, right? Our insurance will not cover that. It will only cover the treatment. Okay. And I checked the price. Actually, the price to test if you have a mental health care, the mental issue is not in Vietnam. It's like from $1.50 US up to $10 the most. So actually, it's super cheap for just testing if you have a mental issue or not. But yeah, that's how it works in Vietnam.
Is it accessible? Is it easy to? Is it widespread all over the country, or do people have to travel to a large city to get treated?
In every province would be like 2 or 3 mental issue hospitals, so it's just very easy to go there.
Great. And we also were thinking about because how we think about health here in Brazil, it's very different from you there. And really, I think here we have a medicalization. It will be the word. A lot of medicalization. We go to the doctor, and many times we go to the doctor won't listen to you. He just will to prescribe you some medicine, and you take the problem away. And that's
it's very Americanized. We follow the American model in many ways. A lot of exams, a lot of tests, a lot of medicine, a lot of drugs, and not enough listening.
There is no listen.
No.
There are doctors who listen to you, but it's not common. It's not the common way to make health here. So that's very sad.
I see the true story from my partner EJ. He years ago he had like suicidal problems, like he wanted to commit suicide, and then he had like depressing, and then stress and kind of stuff like that. And then he's been like he met like doctors in America, and then in South Korea, and then in Vietnam. Actually, the doctor in Vietnam found out with the problem of him, and then and since then he like followed that Vietnamese doctor to take the thyroid problem in the medicine, and then it helps, and then it stops. So actually, like he said, like I've been traveling all over the world to deal with this, and then finally a Vietnamese doctor helped me. So actually, like it turned out that he has like really rare thyroid problem that caused him like really sleepy, lack of energy, and depressing.
Since you approach the think about burger-wise class in Vietnam, want to rich people in Vietnam. What does the party think of Vietnamese rich people class, and how it's possible to make an ideological, cultural, and organizational counterpoint to the growth of these people? What do you think about that in Vietnam?
Okay, this is the thing. Actually, rich people are not really addressed a lot in our National Assembly, the government. We mostly want to bring the poor people up than bringing rich people down, something like that. So like, especially in the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, if you watch my video about how our National Assembly works, we mostly just address poor people and working class. Nobody really address rich people because who cares? They can take care of themselves, right? And then so like we only like plan about like how to give free food for poor people, how to give like free treatment, free health care for poor people, and how to have like working class like to have like stimulus check and then to have the job after when the economy like becomes stable, something like that. So like mostly we just address the problem of poor people and working class. Rich people don't really got much of attention from the government because of course they are rich. So I myself already be careful of them too. The other thing is about compared to what like the Chinese Communist Party did, right? The CCP, right? Actually, yep. I don't know much. We don't know much about what actually is going on over there. So I'm not gonna like comment about this because I don't want to pretend to be an expert or something.
Okay.
Say, like how the CCP is doing things, something like that. And then actually, the problem in Vietnam right now is not from being like authoritarian communist hellhole. The problems that we're having in Vietnam are coming from neoliberalism. Because we are starting to have neoliberals in our National Assembly who like speaks for like big corporation, like concern about the profits of like businessmen, business family, big corporation, and that's the problem we're dealing with right now. So like if you see any like again Western media articles about Vietnam to be like communist hell, actually it's not even a problem in Vietnam. The problem is from like capitalism and neoliberalism. Sucks.
And what are you guys doing about these neoliberals in politics now?
Yeah, we also have other representatives in National Assembly who like bash them and then to tell them to shut the fuck up. Okay, not the technical. They are just
my kind of person.
Yeah, if you watch my video, the Vietnamese Bernie Sanders, she's like really like a communist for the workers, and then there was the a liberal spoke up for like we have to care about the profit and the benefits and the rights for businessmen, for corporation companies in Vietnam, and she's like, no, we need to care about the life of the workers. Why do you force them to like work more and more and you pay them less? Like it's like that, and the whole National Assembly like applause for her thing, and that is kind of cool. And another thing is like, as I said it again, we try to lift poor people up to be equal with rich people. We don't like really want to oppress rich people. Actually, it's not really good for our reputation. So I guess the government were not gonna do that. We try to have poor people and have working class and to fight against imperialism plus like big international corporation. We have anti-imperialist policy where, for example, like Coca-Cola wants to sell their products in Vietnam market, right? There are two choices for them. Like, if they don't want to spend any money on like investing on Vietnam, they can just export their products to Vietnam, and we'll put like super high tax on their Coca-Cola. So like, and at the same time, we have a domestic drinks. It's like a third of the price. So of course, Vietnamese people will buy the domestic brand, okay? And if Coca-Cola really want to enter Vietnamese market, they have to have a factory in Vietnam to make Coca-Cola in Vietnam. And in order to have that factory, they have to have a Vietnamese partner who own like 50% of the factory. So
it's very different from here.
Yeah, like that's how we protect our consumers, our customers. So that's why like we can protect the domestic brand names too. So that's why in Vietnam, I can buy two kinds of Coca-Cola. The imported one's super expensive and nobody really wants to buy it. Or the domestic made Coca-Cola, exactly the same taste, but a third of the price. Very cheap. So the same thing happened with like beer or all kind of drinks like that, and all kind of stuff like that in Vietnam. Yeah, it's kind of, I kind of like this anti-imperialist policy toward like big corporation.
Great. And I think it's lead us to the next question. So I think how hard has it been to try and mitigate the effects of the reforms the International Monetary Fund managed to impose on Vietnam, for example?
Okay. As I said in my Vietnam Socialist video, in the 90s when we had the reforms, right? Actually, we had at that time the IMF and World Bank had to like force Vietnam to allow capitalism in so we can borrow their money. They didn't even give us just the money. We had to borrow their money and then we have to play with their rules too. And that, like, for example, the IMF, in order to get money from them, we have to privatize our farmland and then to like literally just remove communism, socialism, and bring capitalism in, privatize a lot of things, and then have to allow like private owned business inside Vietnam in the 90s. And the thing that we are trying to compete with that is this. Vietnam encouraged millions of people to join cooperative. We have three main kinds of cooperative. Agricultural cooperatives, small-scale industry cooperatives, and transportation cooperative. So like now Vietnam have more than 6 million members of cooperatives. And this is a thing that the government is doing to encourage people to join cooperative to fight against big companies and big corporations. So like if you have a truck and you want to make it become your family business, right? If you want to do that alone, the paperwork is pain in the ass for you to deal with that, to have a like license from the government to have your family, like your private business. But if you are a member of the transportation cooperative, the government will help you with all of that shitty paperwork, and they even give you like people to advise you about what to do, and they even like give you like free accountant to help you deal with your financial situation. So that's why the government is encouraging people to join cooperative instead of big corporation, right? And about being the member of agricultural cooperatives, my mom is actually a member of cooperatives. And it's like if you're a member of cooperative, like the government will give you the advice like twice a year, like what crops should you grow in this season, and then they will give you advice about how to grow it, and then give you like fertilizer, and then when you got the products, the government will also help you to like sell it to like sell market or even export to other countries. So actually most farmers in Vietnam are member of cooperatives because it's way better than, I don't even know any farmers that work for big corporations in Vietnam, actually. Yeah. Oh, that's one thing too. If like a company wants to have vegetable or rice, something like that, and they don't own any land, they have to rent the land, the farms from farmers. So actually now the farmers became the landlords for the big corporations, and they have to pay money for that. It's kind of the way to fight against it. It's hard. It is very difficult, and it's the big corporation and capitalism is very insidious. So we have to be really careful and smart to like dealing with them.
It's worked so far, so you're doing it right.
I'd like the answer, and I want to know if you know about Ho Chi Minh travel in Brazil. He was here in Rio de Janeiro, and do you in Vietnam know about the impressions of him of Brazil when he was here?
Yeah. Actually, I learned a lot about Ho Chi Minh and his journey, like for nearly 20 years all over the world. And then I also knew that he was in Brazil. But like, actually, we did not really have any details about what did he do there. So like, can you please tell me about that? Like, most of us didn't really know much about that.
I just know that he was here, and I was reading about your country here, and knowing about your history. But in Brazil, we usually don't know so much about Vietnam. We know about what USA tell us about you. That's the sad thing. I was not a communist until 3 years ago. So I wouldn't. How can I? Let me ask Letícia. How can I say? Eu não ia me interessar por isso. I would
he wouldn't normally be interested in any of this. It was because we don't hear about Vietnam from the point of view of Vietnam. We only know about the war and what the Americans were doing and the big communist scare and have
The
fighting
movies.
and the commies. Yes, a lot of movies.
Yes.
Yeah, so we don't know exactly what happened. We don't know anything from your standpoint. So it's not something that we normally think about. Oh, I'm going to study the Vietnam history because it's just a passing thing at school. You know, there's a couple of questions in your history exam and that's it.
If you are not a communist, you are not enjoying this kind of topic, for example.
Yeah. It's an acquired taste. It takes a while for you to become interested. I think the more you study, the more you want to go deeper into these revolutions and things that we don't study. Like we don't study the Haiti revolution. We don't study any of that. And these are really important things that we have never heard of. So you start being more interesting because you start studying it, and then somebody mentions it, and then you go and look it up. But it's not something that we routinely study or talk about.
No, I think I have at least 5 or 7 whole books here, book. But I didn't read yet. but I will. There are too many things to me to read. I'm a communist in the last years, and I'm trying to understand and reading and make this channel, and I had to work on my party too, and there are many. I don't know. It's not the job word. Tasking.
Yeah, a lot of tasks, a lot of things to do.
I have a lot of things to do with this. My no way to live my life as a communist in Brazil, and it's not very easy to us here. But I just know who was here, and I was curious about that. But we will search.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I see the stories of Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam are like there are a lot of stories. So like they just mention each place like in the short paragraph. It's not really enough information about he was. Yeah, we know that he was in Brazil, but not really any details about that. Yeah, so I'm really curious too.
I want to know too, is Ho Chi Minh is still the main reference in Vietnam? What are the main issues of Marxism in your country, and how Ho Chi is in this context?
Yeah, Ho Chi Minh is very, very important in Vietnam. But here's the thing, we don't treat him like God or something. We know that he's just a human, and then
because we are communist.
Yeah, we don't teach you guys God, yeah.
Not Christians.
And then we all love him. Most of us, of course, anti-communists, they still talk shit about him every day. But yeah, most of Vietnamese people, like dozens of millions of Vietnamese people love Ho Chi Minh, and then we know the struggle, and he was the one who sacrificed actually everything to the liberation of our country. And about the Marxism in Vietnam, we've been teaching Marxism for every student since they were 6 years old until they like 21st year old when they graduate from the university. So actually, you can call me an official chained Marxist-Leninist for like 16 years, something like that. So like in the first grade of primary school, you will learn about like the small stories about Lenin, Marx, and Ho Chi Minh, about how to have the love for your country, to love for poor people, and you need to share the interest with the poor working class. Yeah, to raise that from feeling for kids. And then I grow up, and then in the university, I learned more officially about how Marxism, Leninism, and Ho Chi Minh taught in Vietnam, and how to build a strong communist party, and how to learn about our socialist path, and how to be a part of that path. So it's very, very important. And one thing that we really emphasize a lot, that based on Ho Chi Minh thought, is that mostly Marx and Lenin just talk about how to have a communist society from capitalist society, and he mostly just talk about the economic and the big problem this whole society. But Ho Chi Minh was the one who emphasized on education. So like since the 50s, he became the president of Vietnam. Even though that time Vietnam was really poor, we didn't really have any like economy or something like that. We still fought the war against France and America. He mainly focused on educating people. Like he said, like in order to have a socialist society, first you have to have a socialist people with socialist manners and socialist values. So education is very important. We have to have people first. If we want to build a socialist society, then that's what we are doing right now. That's why we've been teaching Marxism, Leninism, Ho Chi Minh thought like to every student in Vietnam. But at the same time, we also teach like guerrilla tactics, how to throw grenades, how to shoot an AK-47, how to follow like symbol like military orders from high school to university. So actually, I am also like well-trained guerrillas in Vietnam. So whenever something happens, everybody can just like join the army, join the guerrillas, and yeah, we'll take our home there.
Because the thing is, since you mentioned the whole guerrilla thing, that you know how to shoot and how to deal with a rifle and guns and so on, how is it that in Vietnam you don't have this kind of fascination with weapons that you have in the U.S., for example, that they have this amendment that they're always defending their right to have weapons, like it's their right to breathe oxygen, and it's such a heavily militarized society in a very, very bad way. And how is it possible that it doesn't happen the same way in Vietnam, where you learn these things at school? It's part of everybody's everyday life. Why don't people love weapons and defend crazily their right to own weapons like they do in the U.S.?
And are not dumb.
And they're not pro-Trump and not stupid.
Let me see. It's like maybe because the society in Vietnam is so different. So like it's the common. Here's the thing. After the war, 1975, everybody like the government like encouraged everybody to hand over all the weapons they still kept after the war, and everybody happily do that. We are so tired of war. We are so tired of shooting and killing other people. So like we happily did it. And then since then, the Vietnam is a society where we don't have any right to own like a private gun or something like that. We can't. And then we don't want it too. We don't want it. I don't want to have a gun in our house. It's so dangerous. And then actually myself, if I can choose, I want to live in society in Vietnam. I'd rather live in a society where nobody can own a gun than in a society everybody can own a gun and threaten my life. Actually, I don't want it. But like maybe the situation in the USA is so different. Like everybody can own a gun, and then there's like a lot of crimes there. Maybe people in some area they need guns to protect it, but it's not like that in Vietnam, absolutely at all. And then but the fact is there are armories everywhere in every district of Vietnam. So the military style of Vietnam is very decentralized actually. So like we have militia, like half-trained soldiers in Vietnam in every district. And also like every student in Vietnam will use once trained guerrillas, which guerrilla tactics, kind of basic stuff like that. So Vietnam means people are well equipped to be a soldiers, to be like revolutionists. But we don't want guns. We don't really own guns. Kind of. We don't want. And a lot of people actually criticize Vietnam for like, oh, you don't even have a right to own guns in Vietnam. Vietnam sucks. The government is so oppressive.
Nobody, only the U.S. That's the only country in the world where people are so fascinated and they're so attached to their weapons.
In Brazil, we are importing this kind of thinking, and I want to let you to tell you what militia in Brazil means, because I even can't thinking that in English now.
Yeah, I don't think there is a word because we use it in a bad way. A militia is basically a group of either former policemen or policemen who extort money from business people and from regular people. So if they take control of an area of the slums, for example, they force you to buy from their businesses. If you don't buy, I don't know, gas or their internet services, then they threaten your family and you will probably have to move because somebody's going to die. And these are policemen.
Farmer.
something like that.
Yeah, so these are what we call militia. A militia in Brazil is a very bad thing because it's these armed and heavily armed because they're using police weapons, police equipment.
They have the power in Brazil now.
Right now. And the president is involved with them. It's a mess.
That's a talk we'll tell you in your video, in your channel. But that's our problem.
Like my cousin's ex-husband is a militia in the local government, so I know exactly how they work. It's just like normal like youth in the local government, and they were like chosen to be trained for like 1 or 2 years how to use like basic kung fu, of course, and basic like weapons. And like mostly their job is to like whenever there's a flood in the central got flooded a lot. So mostly after the flood or it's within the flood, they will like just come and help people dealing with like their home, their house, their family members, their pets, to like bring the stuff out and help people out, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
The mostly is to help people in the government whenever the government needs something to be done. And that's it. They don't have any right to arrest anybody in Vietnam. A few years ago in Hanoi, some kind of the traffic police, they wanted to give the right to militia in Hanoi to like arrest people who like broke the traffic laws, and no Vietnamese citizen like agree with that. Like, and so like after like few months, people just forget that law, and then like now the militia have no right to arrest anybody. The job is to like help people. That's it.
Yeah. What a dream.
What a dream. What a dream.
Nice militias. Here we hear the word militia and we start shaking because they're really, really dangerous people.
God.
You don't want to mess with them.
In Vietnam, it's like, they're just militia. Fuck them, I don't care. Just go, keep going. Like, there's no power actually here at all. They get some allowance from the government every month. It depends on the budget of the local government where they work for. So usually like from like $50 to like $70, depend like that. And it's just like a part-time job. They still have the main job as a normal workers, but like the part-time job is militia, and whenever the local government needs something to be done, they will gather together and help. That's it.
As a communist, I know what this kind of militia in your country is, but here in Brazil, it's very different. When I start to read about communism, I read, militia is this good thing to the country and to the community, but here that's our kind of militia. Anyway, Luna, I liked so much our talking. I think we got all topics, and I'm not anxious like in the beginning, and I'm speaking English.
Yay!
Yeah, you're speaking pretty good, actually.
I think the problem it's all in my mind and not in speaking English. I liked so much our talking. If you can let your final message to our listeners and watchers. I forgot the word anyway, but
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter now, but you can tell us your final message. I would like so much to hear you.
Okay. As a Vietnamese communist, also I am a dialectical materialist, so I really care about the material conditions in the society that you're living in if you want a revolution. So I think that South America right now has the highest potential of having a revolution in the world. That's my thought about that. And so like I want to send you my solidarity, my love for you all, and then I don't know what to say. I just like communism is not bad. Please liberate yourself from CIA propaganda, anti-communist propaganda. It's not bad, and then it is a way to liberate yourself from oppression, from capitalism, because the true problem is capitalism, and communism could be a way to help you live like be free from that. Solidarity from Vietnamese comrades, and I hope that you can stay safe, especially during this pandemic. Stay
Yep.
strong. Keep your faith. Keep fighting. And then revolution is like a job and a task for years, even like for decades. So keep working on it. Do not lose hope. Okay. And the first thing very important is to educate yourself, learn more about communism, and to spread your knowledge to other people too, to find more comrades into your team. Thank you so much. I really, really have a high hope on South American countries. You will have a revolution soon.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, I expect that. I liked so much our talking, and I want to thank Letícia to stay with me.
Thank you for the invite.
Hold my hands. I was very anxious and nervous to speak in English. It will be my first time, and in Brazil, I think I will let this part in the video. But in Brazil, people want to speak English very well and the pronunciation very well, just like Americans speak. That's kind of
nobody speaks a foreign language like that. We have this kind of complex of inferiority that we need to be perfectly fluent, and nobody is, and nobody cares if you get your message across. That's the important thing.
Everybody has accent. Everybody have an accent, and no matter how hard you try, the native speaker can still recognize the accent.
Oh, if they want, yes.
Yeah, if they want. So there's no point. Just try to speak slowly, clearly, to have people understand what you say, and that is the most important purpose of communication. Try to speak fancy this is for what? So to look smart. Okay. I really get it. If you this is my tips. If you really want to sound smart and to have to sound influent in English, speak like me, do not move your lips too much. And sound very, very lazy like this. So actually the American native speakers, they are very lazy. And they don't even want to move their mouth a lot. That's smart for you, but that's the accent. It's the one I'm really talking right. I love my accent. Okay,
Luna, do you speak French?
That's a good final message to our.
Do you speak French, Luna? I'm just curious.
I don't, but I learned something like merci.
The basics. Yes, me too.
Yeah, the basics.
Okay, that was a great final message. I love it.
I love it. That's the video.
And then one last question that I just want to know myself. What about the COVID-19 situation over there? About the vaccine or the
Are you sure you want to know?
Yeah.
Really?
We don't know what's going to happen. We don't have syringes. We don't have needles because the government forgot to order them.
They just got 7 million of needles, but they had to got 331 million of needles
like that.
Because
even if we do manage to buy the vaccines, which is not guaranteed, we don't know if we're going to get them because the government didn't order them. But if we do get them, we don't have syringes or needles to apply the vaccines.
EJ.
His name is American Johnson. I usually call him EJ for short. My comrade wanted you to say hi to Brazilian comrades too.
Oh, I was trying to stay off camera.
Hi
hello.
there.
Hi.
Yeah, is this pre-recorded? I guess.
Yeah, pre-recorded. So
Yeah, I will put this
I'm American
in
Johnson. I'm in my pajamas, but I want to say solidarity to all the comrades of the world, especially Brazil. We've gotten a lot of support from all of you, and we support you as well. So thank you very much for everything you do to support me and Luna, and thank you for fighting the power. Solidarity.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
That's it. I hope you like it. Bye.